Hey, Matt. Hope you're doing well, all things considered. I'm curious. I saw Corey Lindsley had posted a little bit about a conversation that the offensive line group had on Monday. How did the opportunity to give them the space to have this discussion and share their experiences during a time that would otherwise be dedicated to football come about?
Well, I hope you're doing well too, Olivia. I just, it's pretty easy in my mind. There's things that are bigger than football, and this is one of those things. And I was fortunate to be in a lot of those meetings, and there's a lot of powerful words and stories that our players told. And I think this is such a great opportunity for all of us, coaches, players, everybody in society, to listen and to listen to our Black community and just some of the struggles that they've dealt with for years and years and years. And what a great opportunity to be really aware of what's going on, and really a great opportunity to make significant changes.
Mike Clemens, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. I was thinking about last December, January, when your team was dealing with that flu bug. You know, several players said it was one of the worst ones they ever had. Blaga missing the Seahawks game. Have you thought about that time as you plan bringing the guys back, dealing with COVID, you know, separation, and would they be at St. Norbert's if you have a training camp?
Hey, Mike, good to talk to you as well. You know, that in regards to St. Norbert's, that's something that we're discussing right now. But certainly have thought a lot about just what the flu virus that went on within our team, and you know the challenges that it presented throughout the course, or really the back half of the season. And that's certainly at the forefront of our mind, and we're going to try to do everything in our power to avoid that moving forward.
Ryan Wood, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. Hope you and the family are healthy and well. It's been almost 2 weeks since George Floyd's death. I'm curious, from early last week and then into this week, how you've managed this time with your players, meetings, because obviously ordinarily there would be a lot of football going on, but just the balance for you and how you've kind of your handlings with the players during the past couple weeks here.
Well, it's good to hear from you too, Ryan. I hope you guys are doing well. You know, it's just, when I saw that video, it was appalling, man. It's totally unacceptable. Here we are in 2020, and this stuff is still ongoing. And just really trying to listen to our players, to listen to some of my closest friends that have dealt with this stuff throughout their life, and trying to come up with ways to not only talk about it, but to be about it, and to create the changes that are needed in society. And there's been a lot of discussions. I would say the majority of my time this last week, over the course of this last week, has been on other things, on the social injustice, on police brutality. Had far more common conversations in regards to those aspects of life instead of football.
Hey, Coach. A few months ago, the Patriots made headlines after they drafted a player with a 3%er tattoo. You obviously can't speak to any decisions that were made prior to your arrival in Green Bay, but going forward, especially given your statement in yesterday's video that the right actions mean a lot more than the right words, do you plan to have an active voice in conversations with the personnel group to ensure that anyone with public ties to extremist or racist groups are not welcome in your locker room?
Yeah, I hope you're doing well, Aaron. Yeah, certainly, you know, I think Goody and his staff do a great job of vetting all our players. And we want guys that are inclusive, that believe in equal rights, and that are going to be great teammates. And anytime you have anything like that, I think that deters from that just what we're looking for in being a Green Bay Packer.
Hey, Matt, obviously it's been an eye-opening week or 2 weeks listening to all the discourse. In what ways do you think the discourse is different now than it was 3 years ago when there were anthem protests? And in what ways do you think any sort of protest, whatever it may be, would be accepted and embraced more and differently than it was 3 years ago?
Hey, Dave, I just think as a society right now, and I know I'm speaking for myself, but certainly I'm much more aware of some of the issues that exist in this world. And, you look at what happened a few years ago, and it's unfortunate just how we handled some of that. And we've got to move forward, and we've got to do things the right way and really listen. And it's going to come back to that and listen, come up with solutions. And the only way we're going to do that is collectively as an entire country, black, white, Hispanic. It really doesn't matter. We all got to fight these injustices together.
With the NFL allowing coaches back into facilities, I didn't know if you or any of the staffers were back on site now, or when y'all were planning to get back on site, and just how you feel about the opportunity of getting back close to back to normal now.
Yeah, well, actually, I am in Lambeau, which is a really good feeling. What we did is this: we've operated virtually from our homes this whole off season. So I made it totally optional for our staff. If they wanted to come in, they can. If they feel more comfortable working at home, certainly we've had Ryan Downard. He and his wife just had a baby. That's something that I want to be very sensitive to. I told him he's the only one not allowed in our building. It is great to be back here today. But I'm going to leave it up to each individual's discretion on whether or not they want to come back into this building.
Matt Schneidman, go ahead.
Matt, thanks for taking some time to chat with us today. What have you learned from your players, talking to them individually the past couple days and weeks, specifically your black players, just from talking to them about, racism, police brutality, and the Black Lives Matter movement in general?
Well, there's a lot of guys that are really hurting right now, and they've been hurting for years. And unfortunately, we as a society haven't been listening. And I'm just trying to think for myself and things I could do to, help. And I do think it starts with listening, but then we're going to have to start coming up with an action plan. And I've had a couple meetings today with some of our coaches. Certainly I've had many conversations with our players, and I think we're all kind of brainstorming right now and making sure that we take the necessary steps to see some positive change.
Jason Wilde, go ahead.
Hey, Matt, thanks for doing this. Not that I don't want you to be well as well, but thanks for doing this. You mentioned you're back in Lambeau. I'm wondering even though you figured out ways to get everything you needed to get done at home and whatever, what are you able to do now that you're back in the office that you couldn't do when you were at home with Bree and the kids? And how much will that help you now start preparing for training camp?
Well, I don't have to hear my wife. I told you guys, or Jason, I told you when I was on the radio show, I kept hearing a lot of screaming going on upstairs. When I was downstairs, my wife was getting on the kids pretty good. So it's just, there's not as many distractions when you're actually in the office, able to really hone in and focus on the work that needs to get done in order to be prepared for when training camp finally arrives.
Thanks, Jason. And thanks, Matt, for doing this. It's good to actually see you. Have you had to re-examine, you were very honest in some of the stuff you said, Matt. So have you had to re-examine some of your feelings? Have players had really good, tough discussions? And will that be ongoing for a long time, do you feel?
Yeah, I think everybody needs to take a good hard look in the mirror and see what can you do better to help make it equal for everyone. And so certainly we're going to look at everything we do and just I feel like in my heart, I know that, and I told this to the team, I don't know what it's like to be a black man living in America, and I don't try to pretend to know, but what I do try to do is listen, show empathy, and I told the guys I'm all in for whatever needs to be done to end racism, to end social injustice, to end the police brutality, because I do believe that we are all equals. And you know, the one thing I love about the game of football, the sports, is you get a lot of people from different backgrounds, different religions, different beliefs, different experiences, and we all come together, and we come together with one common goal. And I think you learn, I think it's just a microcosm of the world, and how we need to become one. We need to become united in order to make this place as good of a place as it possibly can be.
Stephen Watson, go ahead.
Thanks, Jason. Hey, Matt, I was curious about the video that you guys put together as a team and released yesterday. How did that all come about? And I imagine that a lot of the guys that were in that video are part of your leadership committee that you have. Can you discuss those discussions that you had with them before putting that video together?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had met as a leadership council, and we were just trying to throw around some ideas of, you know, what can we do that may be a little bit different than just, you know, releasing a statement, or just a little more powerful. And credit to the guys. They came up with this idea. Everybody put a lot of work into it, a lot of thought, a lot of good thought. And, you know, Aaron we had some ideas that we got from some other places, but, you know, Aaron Rodgers kind of took the bull by the horns, and, you know, wrote a specific piece that we would all say at the beginning and at the end, and then everybody in the middle of it kind of put their own story. And so there was a lot of meaning behind it, and I was really proud of our guys. I thought it was exceptionally well done. I thought the people in-house that took all of our videos and spliced them together did an amazing job. I thought the video was extremely powerful.
Mike Spofford, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Matt, and hope all is well. I'm just curious, with your experience the first year with the team, if there were players that you felt were, you know, kind of quiet, kept to themselves personality-wise, that as you guys as a team have discussed some of these racial and social issues, if you've seen certain guys who maybe have become a little more vocal or outspoken in the discussions that you guys have had as a team.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, I would say there's a lot of guys that are very vocal, especially when you have one-on-one conversations with each individual. And that's something that we're continuing to work through to do, because I do want to hear everybody, because everybody needs to have a voice, and not everybody has gone through the same experiences. And it is enlightening to hear our guys' stories, and just want to listen to them and see how I can be better for them.
Bill Huber, go ahead.
Hey, Matt, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. Two questions. One is rather trivial, and that would be, what does the rest of your off-season program look like? And B, more importantly, sports has always been kind of a driver of these things, going on Jackie Robinson, the Olympics and all that. Do you see sports as, look, you know, it's one thing if someone says something that maybe Aaron Rodgers and other athletes' voices carry a little bit more weight?
Yeah, Bill, I do. As far as your first question in regards to our virtual off season, we're going to continue with the meetings like we have been doing all along. I think our guys have taken a lot from it. I think that our coaches have done a great job of being creative, because it can get a bit monotonous being on, you know, Zoom meetings all day long, or not all day long, but for a long period of time. But our guys have done a good job, and I think our player participation has been 100%. So I'm really excited and to see when we finally get these guys back in the building, how much they retain from this. But it's afforded our guys a good opportunity to kind of take the learning at their own pace, because majority of our meetings are filmed. They're on their iPads. They can go back, they can rewind, they can take notes at their own pace. So, and then, I'm excited to see, we have such an incredible platform in specifically in the National Football League. And a lot of people listen and they look up to our players. And I'm just hopeful that the rest of society will listen to our players and be as invested as these guys are in this process.
George and Madison.
Hey, Coach, hope you're doing well. I'm wondering, with the discussions you guys have had through all this, has kneeling during the national anthem been brought up, and how do you think yourself as a staff will approach that, and also as an organization?
George, that's not something that's come up specifically. I'm definitely looking forward to having those conversations with our players. But my mindset, and I think I can speak for our organization, is we're going to support our players. We're going to support them in what they want to do, provided that, it's peaceful, and we'll always do that.
Matt Reynoldson, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. I just wanted to ask about the dynamics of communication within the coaching staff right now. How does that change with being in person? And is it a little bit of an adjustment, maybe a learning curve, to get back to being able to walk down the hall instead of getting somebody over Zoom?
Yeah, Matt, it will definitely be easier. There weren't too many coaches in today in our building, but I think I'll see more guys trickle in. But again, it's totally optional. We've operated this way for months now, for almost 3 months or whatever it's been. And so I feel like our guys do a really good job of communicating with one another, whether it's in person or it's through these Zoom meetings. But certainly it hasn't been without its challenges either. It's much easier when you're able to get together, get everybody in a room and watch on one screen, as opposed to, the video, whether sometimes it freezes on you and then you got to restart. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to our guys getting back in here, and but we'll see once training camp opens up.
Coach, thanks for the time. You talked about your conversations with players. What about your conversations with your own kids?
Yeah, absolutely. My kids are definitely going to be raised similar to how I was, and it's always talking to my children about treat others the way you want to be treated, and see people for who they are, for how their heart, what's inside their heart. And certainly I want to raise my kids to be, as good and productive in our society as humanly possible.
Hey again, Matt, you've talked a little bit about like listening and empathy, and sort of your process and learning more this past week. Where does that fit into what you view sort of the next steps are, between listening and having empathy and having these conversations toward the long road here?
Yeah, again, like I said earlier, we had a meeting today and just are brainstorming different ideas of what we can do to be productive, to actually make some changes. And I think, like some of the stuff that we talked about was making sure that our guys get involved in the voting process, and, are registered to vote. And certainly this is a big year with the election, and it always falls in the middle of our season. So we've got to make sure that we're doing the right things to set up our guys, whether it's absentee ballots or whatever it may be, But again, we're just putting together a list of things, and it is a pretty extensive list right now. And it's something that I'm going to continue to work through with our guys, and then we'll take the next steps in terms of which route we want to go.
Dave Schrader, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. I had a question about sports place in 2020. Obviously, we've had the pandemic. We've got social injustice that needs reforming. How do you think football plays a role in coming back from that this fall? And in light of the other pro sports, basketball's got its plan to return. Baseball, they're arguing over money issues. Do you think there will be any issues to football's return? And then how big of a role can it have in helping heal our country?
Well, certainly, I think people look at sports in general, as a way to come together and celebrate each other. And as far as the future, what it holds, I mean, I don't know, Dave. I really don't. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get out there back together. I'm hopeful we'll be able to start training camp on time to get our players and our coaches back together, and just work on not only football, but the things that we can do to help make society a better place.
Just wondering, you talked about the virtual off season. I'm just wondering how it kind of changes the tenor of this training camp once y'all are together again. Is training camp going to be any more important than usual because of the things y'all were unable to do earlier in the off season?
Well, fortunately, I was in the NFL during the lockout years, so that kind of gives you a little perspective of what needs to be done. But it's one of those things you really don't know until you get the guys back. I think just from one thing from my perspective is I know we have to be fluid, and we've got to be flexible and be ready to adjust to whatever circumstances may or may not arise throughout the duration of training camp.
Jason Wilde, go ahead.
Hey, Matt, obviously the conversations that you've had this week are really important, and there's a ton of value in spending time talking about those issues. But I remember Mike McCarthy a few years ago, it was during a game week that they were dealing with, do we kneel, do we lock arms, et cetera. And he actually said, I was a little worried because I felt like we spent more time talking about the anthem than we did about football. This is the off season, but with already limitations on what you were able to do virtually, what weren't you able to get done in the last week football-wise? And then what is the process for getting things installed when you do get back together in training camp in person?
Yeah, Jason, I think these are conversations that have to happen. That, again, I keep going back to the same things, but like we've got to listen to our players and our coaches and to the rest of America, and how we fix some of these systemic problems. So I think right now the football can take a back seat to that. Got no problem. I feel really comfortable with where we are from a football standpoint with what we've been able to already get installed to our guys. And, I'm sure as we move forward, there's going to be a good mix of both.
So, Matt, I'm going to throw you a football question because, why not? I mean, God forbid, right? Do you think having as much continuity as you guys are going to have, clearly there have been adjustments because that's the NFL. It happens every offseason. You're going to have some differences. But for the most part, especially looking around the division, you guys are pretty similar personnel-wise to what you were last year. Do you think that gives you, speaking of the lockout, teams that were afforded continuity seem to come out of the gate at least a little bit quicker? Do you think that helps you in that regard?
I'll tell you what, Aaron, I think every year comes with new challenges. So I'm not going to try to look at what we've done in the past or rely on past experiences. We're going to face those new challenges that come with each year and attack it head on and do our best to put together a team that gets better each and every day.
Hey, Matt, forgive me for not asking a football question, but there's been several players across the league that have been critical of the league's response against systemic racism. Devontae was in a video with the message saying that the league should say more against systemic racism. I'm curious, as someone of prominence in this league, would you like to see the league say more and be more forceful in its message against racism?
What I want to have happen, I want us to take action and really try to come up with things that we can do to make a change for the better for everyone in this country. And that's what needs to happen.
All right, guys, we got time for a couple more. Let's try Wayne Larrabee again.
Yeah, hi, Matt. How you doing?
Good, Wayne. How are you?
I had heard rumors that there was a chance that you guys might be able to get on the field for a mini camp later this month. Is that no longer? And if that's not the case, if the first time you guys hit the field is training camp, does that mean your rookie class is at a severe disadvantage as compared to other years?
Yeah, certainly if there is no opportunities to get together, I do think it puts them at a little bit of a disadvantage. But that is one thing, provided training camp starts on time, you're allowed to bring the rookies in a week early. That's something that we'll certainly do to try to get them acclimated, to introduce them to some of the stuff that we want them to do on the field.
Thanks, Jason. Matt, we've talked about a lot of heavy subjects for good reason, obviously, today, but sometimes they say that the biggest amount of growth sometimes comes from more the valleys than when you're on top of the mountain and the peaks. So in all of this, have you felt like these discussions have bonded you closer to the team and made everyone closer? Have you spent more time with your family in the pandemic than you ever would have if you would be in minicamp and OTAs? What is there a positive in some of this for you?
Well, just speaking in terms of being at home and being with my family, certainly I've definitely seen them more than I have in the last few years, especially being able to stay in one spot and not having to move away from them. So that has been a positive. And I think that anytime you're faced with adversity or some challenges, you've got to look at the positives. I think there's been a lot of great conversation that I know myself and our staff and our players have had with each other. And I think the more you get to know each other, the more connected you can become, the more united you can become. And, you know, I am hopeful and excited for the future. I think that there's a chance to make significant change in this country. And I just want to be a part of that process.
Coach, when you look at just kind of building on what you were just talking about there, some teams might have obstacles. Obviously, the Saints are going through issues and everybody is different. But can this help in some ways to foster a better togetherness of a team?
I think absolutely. I think our players are united. I think I thought we had a really connected team last year, but I know I don't want to rest on that. It's been tough having everybody separated this offseason. So the more connected we can become, the more united we can become, I think the stronger our team becomes. And so I'm looking forward to the day that we can all get back together and work on everything from football to the progress that we need to make as a society.